The morning fog rolled thick through Clearwater Valley on October 14, 1998, clinging to the Douglas firs that lined Highway 22 like wet wool. Temperature hovered at 42 degrees, cold enough that Sarah Mitchell turned the heater in her burgundy 1995 Toyota Camry to high as she backed out of her driveway at 6:47 a.m. The scent of fresh coffee from her travel mug mixed with the faint vanilla of the air freshener dangling from her rearview mirror. She wore her standard Wednesday uniform: navy blue cardigan over a white blouse, khaki slacks, comfortable flats for the long shifts. Through her kitchen window, her husband Tom had watched her go, coffee cup raised in their usual morning wave. The taillights disappeared into the mist, heading toward Mitchell's Pharmacy on Main Street, the same route she'd driven for 11 years. Sarah Ann Mitchell was 43 years old that autumn, a fixture in Clearwater Valley, the way certain people become woven into small-town fabric. Born Sarah Hendricks in Portland, she'd met Tom Mitchell at Oregon State University in 1977, where she studied pharmaceutical sciences, and he pursued mechanical engineering. They married in 1980, moved to Clearwater Valley in 1987 when Tom took a position at the lumber mill, and Sarah opened Mitchell's Pharmacy the same year. The town of 3,200 souls embraced them immediately. Sarah had a gift for remembering details, asking about grandchildren by name, recalling which customers preferred generic versus brand name medications, knowing who was allergic to what, without checking files. She stood 5'6", with shoulder-length auburn hair she usually wore pulled back in a practical ponytail, hazel eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, a warm smile that put nervous patients at ease. Her laugh came easily and often. The Mitchells lived in a 2-story Craftsman on Maple Drive, painted sage green with white trim. Their daughter Emma, 20, was in her junior year at University of Oregon studying education. Their son Jack, 17, was a senior at Clearwater Valley High, quarterback of the football team, planning to attend Oregon State like his parents. Family photos covered the living room walls: camping trips to Crater Lake, Emma's high school graduation, Jack in his football uniform, Sarah and Tom's 20th anniversary dinner in Portland. Sarah collected vintage medicine bottles, displaying them on shelves in her home office. She volunteered at the local animal shelter every other Saturday, served on the school board, organized the annual Christmas toy drive. On Sundays, the Mitchells attended services at Clearwater Community Church, followed by lunch at Rosie's Diner, where Sarah always ordered the chicken salad sandwich. The pharmacy sat on Main Street between Henderson's Hardware and the Book Nook, a narrow brick building with large front windows displaying vitamin promotions and seasonal decorations. Sarah had strung orange and brown fall garlands across the window frames the previous Monday. Her assistant, 26-year-old Jennifer Park, typically arrived at 8:30 a.m. to help with the morning rush before the pharmacy officially opened at 9. Sarah liked getting there by 7 to handle inventory, check prescriptions that needed filling, organize the day's work. She was meticulous about routine. Always arrived between 6:55 and 7:05 a.m. Always parked in the alley behind the building in the same spot near the back entrance. Always entered through the rear door using her key. Always turned off the security system using code 1987 the year they'd opened. But when Jennifer Park arrived at 8:28 a.m. on October 14th, she found the back door locked. She knocked. No answer. She tried the front door. Also locked. Through the window, she could see the interior lights were off, the security system panel glowing red. Sarah's Camry wasn't in its usual spot in the alley. Jennifer called Sarah's home number from the payphone outside Henderson's Hardware. Tom answered on the second ring, voice casual, expecting a mundane question. Instead, he heard Jennifer's worried tone, asking if Sarah was home sick, if she'd called in, if something had happened. Tom felt his stomach drop. Sarah had left the house on schedule 90 minutes earlier. He'd watched her drive away into the fog. She should have been at the pharmacy over an hour ago. He immediately drove to Main Street, checked the pharmacy himself, drove the route Sarah would have taken, down Maple Drive to Oak Street, Oak to Highway 22, Highway 22 for 4 miles, then left onto Alder Creek Road, which wound through forest before emerging near downtown. Nothing. No sign of the Camry. No indication of where she might have stopped. Tom called Clearwater Valley Police Department at 9:14 a.m. Dispatch connected him to Officer Mark Reynolds, who took down the information. Sarah Mitchell, 43, white female, auburn hair, hazel eyes, 5'6", approximately 130 pounds, last seen wearing navy cardigan and khaki slacks, driving burgundy 1995 Toyota Camry, Oregon license plate HGF 429, left home at 6:47 a.m., never arrived at work, 90-minute window, no known stops, phone at pharmacy and home both ringing unanswered. Reynolds knew Sarah. Everyone in Clearwater Valley knew Sarah. This wasn't right. Sarah Mitchell didn't disappear. Sarah Mitchell showed up early, stayed late, never missed a day unless Jack or Emma was sick. Reynolds immediately contacted Chief Harold Warren, who authorized a full response. By 10:00 a.m., 3 patrol units were searching Highway 22 and Alder Creek Road. By 11:00 a.m., they'd expanded to side roads and pull-offs. By noon, they'd found nothing. No Camry, no signs of accident, no skid marks or broken glass, no evidence Sarah Mitchell had driven that route that morning at all. Search and rescue teams arrived by 2:00 p.m. Douglas County Sheriff's Department sent 2 K9 units, German Shepherds trained in tracking and cadaver detection. The dogs searched both sides of Highway 22 and Alder Creek Road for 3 miles in each direction. They found nothing. Oregon State Police deployed a helicopter equipped with thermal imaging cameras covering a 15-square-mile search radius around Sarah's route and the pharmacy. They spotted deer, elk, 1 black bear, no human heat signatures, no burgundy Camry hidden in the forest. Volunteers began gathering at the high school gymnasium by 4:00 p.m. Neighbors, church members, customers from the pharmacy, Jack's football teammates, Emma who'd driven home from Eugene in tears. Chief Warren organized them into grid search teams, 23 groups of 8 to 10 people each, assigned specific zones. For 3 days, 217 volunteers combed forests, ravines, logging roads, and creek beds. They checked abandoned structures, old barns, defunct logging camps. They walked shoulder to shoulder through dense underbrush, calling Sarah's name until their voices went hoarse. Tom Mitchell barely slept, spending nights reviewing maps with investigators, days searching areas the official teams hadn't yet covered. Emma and Jack distributed flyers with their mother's photo, Sarah smiling at Emma's high school graduation, printing 5,000 copies at a Portland print shop that refused payment when they heard the story. The flyers appeared on every telephone pole, in every store window, at every gas station within 50 miles. A reward fund grew to $15,000 by day 4. Detective Linda Ortega from Douglas County Sheriff's Major Crimes Unit took lead on the investigation. 48 years old, 26 years on the force, Ortega had worked homicides, missing persons, cold cases. She'd seen too many disappearances that looked exactly like this. Stable person, routine life, vanishes without trace. The first 48 hours were critical. They were already past that. Ortega interviewed everyone who might have seen Sarah that morning. Postal carrier Frank Chen had been sorting mail at the Maple Drive cluster boxes around 6:45 a.m. He hadn't noticed Sarah's Camry, but he'd been focused on his work. Neighbor Dorothy Walsh said she'd seen headlights through her kitchen window around the right time, but couldn't be certain whose car. No one along Highway 22 or Alder Creek Road reported seeing the Camry. It was as if the fog had swallowed Sarah Mitchell whole. Ortega's team reconstructed Sarah's recent life, looking for anything unusual. Phone records showed normal patterns: calls to suppliers, calls to Emma at college, brief calls to Tom during breaks. Financial records revealed no suspicious transactions, no large withdrawals, no secret accounts. Tom provided full access to everything: bank statements, credit cards, mortgage papers. Their marriage was solid, friends confirmed, no affairs, no fights, no reason for Sarah to leave voluntarily. Ortega interviewed Jennifer Park extensively. Had Sarah mentioned feeling threatened? Had anyone been acting strangely at the pharmacy? Were there any prescription disputes or angry customers? Jennifer said no to everything. The pharmacy ran smoothly. Customers loved Sarah. There had been no incidents. The media descended. Portland news stations sent crews. The Oregonian ran a front-page story. Sarah's smiling photo appeared on evening broadcasts across the state. Psychics called claiming visions. Tips flooded the hotline. Sarah spotted in Seattle, in Sacramento, in Spokane. All false. A trucker reported seeing a burgundy Camry pulled over on Highway 22 around 7:15 a.m. that morning. But when investigators pressed for details, he admitted he couldn't be certain of the date or color. The fog had been too thick. Another witness claimed they'd seen a woman matching Sarah's description at a rest stop near Eugene. But the timeline didn't work, and the woman turned out to be a dental hygienist from Roseburg. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months, months to years. The search officially scaled back after 2 months, though volunteers continued weekend searches through winter. Snow came early to Clearwater Valley that year, blanketing the forest, making searches impossible until spring thaw. Tom Mitchell hired private investigator Raymond Cross, a former Portland police detective with a reputation for solving cold cases. Cross spent 6 months reviewing everything, found nothing Ortega's team had missed. The pharmacy remained closed. A missing flyer taped to the front door beneath the gold lettering that read, Mitchell's Pharmacy, established 1987. Jennifer Park found work at a CVS in Roseburg. Tom kept Sarah's office exactly as she'd left it. Paperwork on the desk, vintage medicine bottles on the shelves. Calendar still turned to October 1998. Emma graduated from University of Oregon in 2001, became an elementary school teacher in Eugene, visited home every other weekend to check on her father and brother. Jack attended Oregon State, played football for 2 years before a knee injury ended his career, graduated in 2003 with a degree in business. He moved back to Clearwater Valley, got a job at the lumber mill, where his father had worked before retiring early on disability after a back injury. Neither Emma nor Jack married. How could they? They told friends, when they didn't know if their mother was alive or dead, when there were no answers. Only the terrible absence that filled every room, every holiday, every birthday she missed. Tom kept calling Detective Ortega every few months. Any updates? Any new leads? Ortega always answered honestly, no, nothing new, but the case remained open. The FBI had entered Sarah's information into the National Crime Information Center database. Her dental records, fingerprints, DNA profile from hair samples Tom had provided, all logged and waiting for a match that never came. The burgundy Camry never surfaced at any impound lot, any chop shop, any junkyard in Oregon, Washington, California, or Nevada. License plate readers had never pinged HGF 429. It was as if the car, like Sarah, had evaporated. Every October 14th, the Mitchell family held a candlelight vigil at Clearwater Community Church. The first anniversary drew 400 people. The 5th anniversary drew 100. By the 10th anniversary in 2008, 75 people attended. Still remarkable for a town of 3,200, a testament to how deeply Sarah Mitchell had been loved. Tom spoke at every vigil, his voice steady despite the pain. We will never stop hoping, he said. We will never stop searching. Somewhere, someone knows what happened. Somewhere, there's an answer, and we will find it. For 16 years, the case sat cold. Then, on March 22, 2014, a pair of hikers exploring a rarely used logging road 15 miles north of Clearwater Valley made a discovery that would crack the case wide open. Tyler and Monica Harrison, both 32, avid outdoors enthusiasts from Eugene, had decided to explore the old Cascade Timber Company roads that wound through national forest land. The logging company had gone bankrupt in 2002, leaving miles of overgrown access roads slowly being reclaimed by forest. Tyler and Monica liked photographing abandoned industrial sites. They'd parked their Jeep on Forest Service Road 2847 and hiked 2 miles up an overgrown spur road marked only by a faded, no trespassing, Cascade Timber Property sign. At 2:17 p.m., Tyler spotted something unnatural through the trees, a glint of metal where metal shouldn't be. They pushed through dense undergrowth toward the anomaly. What emerged was a burgundy vehicle, completely overgrown with blackberry vines and moss, windows opaque with grime and forest detritus. A Douglas fir sapling had grown up through the engine compartment, lifting the hood at an angle. Tyler cleared enough vines from the rear license plate to read it. HGF 429. Monica's hand shook as she dialed 911. The operator asked her to repeat the license plate number twice. HGF 429. Sarah Mitchell's Camry, missing for 16 years. Tyler and Monica stood guard over the site, afraid to touch anything else, afraid this was real, unable to believe they'd stumbled onto Oregon's most infamous cold case. Douglas County Sheriff's Department responded with full force. Detective Linda Ortega, now 64 and 6 months from retirement, arrived on scene within 90 minutes along with forensics teams, the county medical examiner, and a recovery crew. The Camry sat roughly 50 yards from the logging road, angled downslope as if someone had carefully driven it into the trees and left it there. The driver's door was closed but unlocked. The passenger door hung open slightly, vines having forced it ajar over the years. Ortega pulled on latex gloves and approached the vehicle. The interior was a time capsule of decay, seats covered in mold and rodent nests, dashboard cracked by weather exposure despite the tree cover, steering wheel wrapped in moss. On the passenger seat, barely visible beneath decomposed leaves, sat a white travel mug with "World's Best Mom" printed in blue letters, Emma's Mother's Day gift to Sarah in 1997. In the back seat lay a navy cardigan, folded neatly, still recognizable despite the decay. But Sarah Mitchell was not in the car. The forensics team spent 6 hours processing the scene. They photographed everything, bagged evidence, searched the immediate area with ground-penetrating radar, looking for disturbed earth. They found no human remains within 200 yards of the vehicle. They did find, however, something significant in the trunk. Wrapped in plastic sheeting was a toolbox containing gloves, zip ties, duct tape, and a coil of rope. These items showed no exposure to the elements. They'd been protected by the trunk seal and plastic wrapping. DNA analysis would later reveal microscopic traces of blood on the rope. The blood type matched Sarah Mitchell's. Touch DNA on the zip ties would match someone else entirely. News of the discovery spread through Clearwater Valley within hours. Tom Mitchell, now 71, and in declining health, received the call from Detective Ortega at 4:45 p.m. He'd been expecting this call for 16 years, dreading it, hoping for it, praying it would bring answers rather than heartbreak. Emma and Jack both drove to their father's house immediately. That night, the three of them sat in the living room where Sarah's photo still hung, where her absence still echoed, and waited for the answers the Camry might provide. The forensics team worked through the night. The Camry was transported to the state crime lab in Portland. Every surface was swabbed, printed, analyzed. Hair and fiber evidence was collected. Soil samples from the tires and undercarriage were compared to soil composition maps. The vehicle history was reconstructed. It had last been registered in 1998. It had never been reported at any chop shop or salvage yard. It had simply vanished into the forest and waited. The touch DNA on the zip ties belonged to Michael Anthony Voss, age 57, current resident of Boise, Idaho. Ortega ran the name through every database available. Michael Voss had been living in Clearwater Valley in 1998. He'd worked as a maintenance technician for the Cascade Timber Company until the bankruptcy in 2002, after which he'd moved to Idaho and worked various jobs: maintenance work, equipment operation, construction. He had a criminal record, 2 DUIs, 1 domestic violence arrest in 2006 that resulted in probation, 1 assault charge in 2010 that was pled down to disorderly conduct. Nothing that screamed killer. Nothing that would have made him a suspect 16 years earlier. But Michael Voss knew the logging roads. He'd worked those roads daily for Cascade Timber. He knew every spur, every pull-off, every place you could hide something, or someone, where it wouldn't be found. Ortega dove deep into Voss's background. In October 1998, he'd been 33 years old, living in a rental house on the outskirts of Clearwater Valley with his girlfriend, Nicole Brenner. According to employment records, Voss had been scheduled to work the morning of October 14th, but had called in sick. His supervisor had noted it in the daily log because Voss rarely took sick days. When investigators had canvassed potential witnesses in 1998, They'd spoken to hundreds of people, but Voss had never appeared on their radar. He hadn't known Sarah Mitchell personally. He wasn't a pharmacy customer. He had no obvious connection to the victim. But Ortega found something else. In 1996, 2 years before Sarah's disappearance, a 28-year-old woman named Rebecca Sutton had been attacked while jogging on a trail near Clearwater Valley. She'd been grabbed from behind, zip ties placed around her wrists, dragged off the trail toward a vehicle. She'd fought back ferociously, managed to break free, ran until she found help. She'd given police a description: white male, early 30s, roughly 6 feet tall, brown hair, driving a dark-colored pickup truck. Police had investigated, but never identified a suspect. Rebecca had left Oregon shortly after, too traumatized to stay. Ortega contacted Rebecca Sutton, now 46 and living in Colorado. Could she look at a photo lineup? Would she be willing to help after all these years? Rebecca agreed immediately. When she saw Michael Voss's 1996 booking photo from his first DUI arrest, her reaction was instant and visceral. "That's him," she said. "That's the man who attacked me." The pattern emerged. Voss had a history, not a long arrest record, but behaviors that signaled danger. Controlling relationships, violence when drinking, jobs that gave him access to isolated areas. The domestic violence victim from 2006 was his ex-wife, Carla Voss, who divorced him in 2007 and moved to California. Ortega tracked her down. Carla was reluctant to talk initially, but when Ortega explained the Sarah Mitchell case, she opened up. Michael was dangerous, she said. He'd been obsessed with control. He'd followed her, monitored her phone calls, exploded into rages. Once, during a fight, he'd grabbed zip ties from his work truck and threatened to teach her a lesson. She'd locked herself in the bathroom until he calmed down. She'd filed for divorce the next day, with DNA evidence, witness testimony, and a suspect who'd had means, opportunity, and a pattern of violent behavior. Ortega had enough for an arrest warrant. On April 8, 2014, Boise police arrested Michael Anthony Voss at his apartment on South Latta Street. He was working night shift as a warehouse foreman, had been at work when police arrived. They waited for him to come home at 7:30 a.m., knocked on his door, identified themselves, placed him under arrest for the kidnapping and suspected murder of Sarah Ann Mitchell. Voss said nothing. He asked for a lawyer. He was transported to Ada County Jail, held without bail pending extradition to Oregon. Detective Ortega traveled to Boise personally to be present when Voss was transferred to Douglas County custody. She'd waited 16 years for this moment. She'd promised Tom Mitchell answers. She'd promised Emma and Jack they'd find out what happened to their mother. Now, riding in the transport van with Voss shackled in the back, separated by mesh screen, she studied the man who'd stolen Sarah Mitchell's life. Voss was 57 now, weathered and thick around the middle, grey creeping into his brown hair, face lined with years of outdoor work. He stared out the window, expressionless, as if he was simply being transported to another job site, rather than facing justice for murder. Ortega had interrogated hundreds of suspects over her career. She knew the ones who would break and the ones who wouldn't. Voss was the latter, a man who'd kept his secret for 16 years, who'd moved states and built a new life, who'd believed he'd gotten away with it. The interrogation room at Douglas County Sheriff's Department was deliberately bland. Grey walls, fluorescent lights, metal table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs, one-way mirror. Voss sat with his lawyer, a court-appointed public defender named Richard Moss, who'd been assigned that morning. Ortega sat across from them with Deputy District Attorney Catherine Reynolds, who would prosecute the case. A video camera in the corner documented everything. Ortega began with procedural formalities, reading Voss's Miranda rights again, though they had already been read at arrest, confirming he understood them, confirming he was speaking voluntarily, with his attorney present. Then she opened a file folder and removed a photo. Sarah Mitchell, smiling at Emma's graduation. She slid it across the table. "Do you recognize this woman?" Voss glanced at the photo. His expression remained neutral. "No. This is Sarah Mitchell. She disappeared October 14, 1998. Does that date mean anything to you? No. You called in sick to work that day. Your supervisor logged it. You remember being sick that day? Voss shrugged. That's 16 years ago. I don't remember. Ortega removed another photo, the burgundy Camry covered in vines. She placed it on the table. Voss's jaw tightened slightly, the first crack in his composure. This is Sarah Mitchell's car. We found it on Old Cascade Timberland. You worked for Cascade Timber in 1998. You knew those logging roads. You knew exactly where to hide a vehicle where it wouldn't be found. Ortega's voice remained calm, factual, relentless. We found zip ties in the trunk. Your DNA is on those zip ties. I want to speak with my attorney privately, Voss said. Ortega and Reynolds left the room. 20 minutes later, they returned. Moss asked about the DNA evidence. How certain was the match? What was the chain of custody? Could there be contamination? Reynolds provided detailed answers. The DNA match was conclusive. The probability of it being someone other than Michael Voss was 1 in 8 billion. The evidence had been handled by certified forensic technicians. Chain of custody was flawless. The interrogation continued for 3 hours. Ortega presented evidence piece by piece. The DNA, the employment records showing he'd been off work that morning, Rebecca Sutton's 1996 attack, and her identification of Voss, his ex-wife's testimony about his violent behavior and threats with zip ties. With each revelation, Voss became more still, more silent. He conferred repeatedly with his attorney. He denied everything. But Ortega knew the evidence was overwhelming. DNA didn't lie. The pattern of behavior was undeniable. The jury would see it. Moss knew it too. He asked for a recess to discuss options with his client. Plea negotiations began that afternoon. Reynolds was willing to discuss terms if Voss would provide information about what happened to Sarah Mitchell. Where was her body? What had he done? The Mitchell family deserved that closure. But Voss refused. He would admit nothing. He would provide no information. His lawyer argued that without a body, without witnesses to the actual crime, the case was circumstantial despite the DNA. They would take their chances at trial. The trial of Michael Anthony Voss began on September 15, 2014, in Douglas County Circuit Court. Judge Margaret Hayworth presiding. The prosecution called 32 witnesses over 3 weeks. They presented the DNA evidence, Rebecca Sutton's testimony about the 1996 attack, Carla Voss's testimony about her ex-husband's violent behavior, expert testimony about the time the Camry had sat in the forest based on plant growth and decomposition rates, testimony from the hikers who discovered the vehicle. They showed photos of the toolbox found in the trunk, the zip ties with Voss's DNA, the rope with Sarah's blood. The defense argued the evidence was circumstantial. DNA on zip ties didn't prove Voss had harmed Sarah Mitchell. It only proved he'd touched those zip ties at some point. Maybe they were his work supplies. Maybe someone had stolen them from him. The blood on the rope. How did they know when it had gotten there? Maybe Sarah had cut herself and used the rope as a tourniquet. The attack on Rebecca Sutton in 1996. Tragic, but it happened 2 years before Sarah's disappearance, and Rebecca's identification came 18 years after the fact, subject to memory errors. Without a body, without witnesses, without a confession, the defense argued there was reasonable doubt. The jury deliberated for 4 days. On October 9, 2014, they returned a verdict. Guilty of kidnapping in the first degree, guilty of murder in the second degree. The courtroom erupted. Tom Mitchell, seated in the front row between Emma and Jack, wept openly for the first time since Sarah had vanished. Emma held her father while Jack stared at Voss, who remained expressionless even as the judge polled the jury and confirmed the verdict. Sentencing occurred 3 weeks later. Judge Hayworth allowed victim impact statements. Tom Mitchell, now frail but determined, walked to the podium with Emma's help. He spoke for 20 minutes about Sarah, her kindness, her dedication to the community, her love for her children, the hole her absence had left in their lives. He spoke about missing 16 years of answers, 16 years of wondering, 16 years of hoping against hope that maybe she was still alive somewhere. He looked directly at Voss. You took everything from us. he said. "You took Sarah. You took her future with her grandchildren. You took our peace. You took 16 years of our lives. I hope you spend the rest of your life thinking about what you did, knowing that we will never forget Sarah, and that justice has finally been served." Emma spoke next, describing growing up without her mother, graduating college without her there, becoming a teacher without her guidance, knowing she'd never have her mother's advice when she had children of her own someday. Jack spoke about playing football his senior year without his mom in the stands, about watching his father break a little more each year, about the rage he'd carried for 16 years that finally had somewhere to go, into the belief that the system had worked, that his mother had received justice. Judge Hayworth sentenced Michael Anthony Voss to life in prison without possibility of parole for murder in the second degree, to be served consecutively with 25 years for kidnapping. "Mr. Voss," she said, "you have shown no remorse, provided no answers to this family, offered no explanation for your actions. The evidence presented at trial paints a picture of a predatory individual who took Sarah Mitchell's life and attempted to erase all trace of what you'd done. You failed. Science and dedicated investigators ensured that Sarah Mitchell was not forgotten. You will spend the remainder of your life in prison, and that is the only just outcome." Voss was led from the courtroom in shackles. He never looked at the Mitchell family. He never spoke. He filed an appeal in 2015 that was denied. He filed another appeal in 2017 that was also denied. As of 2024, he remains incarcerated at Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem, where he works in the prison laundry and has no contact with other inmates beyond what's necessary. The Mitchell family spent years rebuilding. Tom passed away in 2019 at age 76, 5 years after seeing justice for Sarah. He'd lived long enough to know the truth, to see Voss convicted, to finally have answers. Emma and Jack established the Sarah Mitchell Memorial Foundation in 2015, providing scholarships for pharmacy students at Oregon State University and funding for cold case investigations throughout Oregon. Each year, on October 14th, they hold a remembrance event, no longer a vigil, but a celebration of Sarah's life and the importance of never giving up hope that truth will prevail. The pharmacy building on Main Street in Clearwater Valley became a community center in 2016. The vintage medicine bottles Sarah collected are displayed in a memorial case in the lobby, along with photos of her with customers, with her family, living the life Michael Voss took from her. The burgundy Camry, after serving as evidence, was crushed and recycled. But the license plate, HGF 429, hangs in the Douglas County Sheriff's Department, a reminder that even after 16 years, even when cases seem impossible, persistence and science can deliver justice. Detective Linda Ortega retired in 2014, shortly after Voss's conviction. She'd spent 27 years in law enforcement, solved dozens of cases, but the Mitchell case was the one she talks about most. "Every cold case represents someone who mattered," she said in a 2020 interview. "Every missing person has a family waiting for answers. Sarah Mitchell's family waited 16 years, but they never stopped believing the truth would come out. That's what we owe them, to never stop working, never stop looking, never accept that a case is too old to solve. Science advances, witnesses come forward, evidence surfaces. Justice delayed is not justice denied, as long as we keep fighting for it." Other cases have been reopened based on the techniques used in the Mitchell investigation. DNA databases have expanded. Forensic technology has advanced, but the most important lesson remains unchanged. Families need answers, communities need closure, and the truth, however long it takes to emerge, deserves to be found. Sarah Ann Mitchell would have been 69 years old today. She would have been a grandmother. Emma married in 2021 and has 2 daughters. She would have celebrated 51 years of marriage to Tom. She would still be collecting vintage medicine bottles, volunteering at the animal shelter, making people feel seen and cared for in the small pharmacy on Main Street. Michael Voss took all of that, but he couldn't take the memory of who Sarah was, the impact she had, the love her family held for her, and the community's commitment to ensuring her story would not end in silence. In the memorial garden at Clearwater Community Church, a bench bears a bronze plaque in memory of Sarah Ann Mitchell, 1955-1998, beloved wife, mother, friend. Your light still guides us. People still sit there. Patients who remembered her kindness. Students who received scholarships in her name. Investigators who worked her case. The bench faces east, toward the sunrise, toward hope, toward the belief that even in the darkest mysteries, light eventually breaks through. Thank you for watching this video. If you believe in the importance of never giving up on cold cases, if you believe every missing person deserves justice, please subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Share this video with someone who appreciates true crime, stories told with respect and depth. Your support helps bring attention to cases that might otherwise remain forgotten. What do you think helped crack this case after 16 years? The DNA technology, the dedicated investigators, or the hikers who happened to explore that forgotten logging road? Comment below. Every unsolved case represents a family still waiting for answers, still hoping for the closure that finally came to Tom Mitchell, Emma, and Jack. Sarah's story reminds us that time doesn't erase truth, and dedication can deliver justice even after decades of silence.